She's a Foxy girl from another world. She wants him to come with her. And it changed everything. It was a rainy evening. The kind that makes the streets shine like mirrors and fills the air with the fresh, clean smell of wet earth. Amir, a man in his late 20s, walked slowly down the narrow streets of his neighborhood. He had just finished a long day at work, the kind of day that left him exhausted both in body and spirit. His office was a gray building full of fluorescent lights and constant buzzing computers. Every day felt the same, and lately he had started wondering if he would ever feel alive again. As he pulled his coat tighter around him, noticed something strange in the alleyway ahead. A small figure crouched near a dumpster, shivering. At first he thought it was a stray cat, or maybe a child hiding from the rain. But the figure moved in a way that made him stop in his tracks. It had a human shape, but not entirely. Two sharp, fox-like ears peeked out from the top of its head, twitching with every drop of rain that hit them. Its hair was long and silvery, wet and sticking to its face. The eyes that met his were wide and terrified. Glowing faintly in the dim light, Amir froze for a moment, unsure if his mind was playing tricks on him. But the figure wasn't imaginary. It was real, trembling and alone in the rain. His heart pounded as he stepped closer. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. The fox-like girl flinched and took a step back, hugging her knees tightly. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice was barely audible. It was soft, melodic, and carried a sadness that made Amir's chest ache. There was no denying that she was scared and she needed help. He knew he couldn't just leave her there. Amir looked around quickly. The street was empty, save for the occasional car splashing through puddles. He made a decision in that instant. He knelt down, keeping his hands visible to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you," he said. "But you can't stay out here in the rain. Come with me. I can help you." For a long moment the girl just stared at him. Her ears twitched, and she seemed to be listening to something beyond the street, as if sensing danger he couldn't see. Then, slowly, she nodded. Amir extended his hand carefully. "Trust me," he said. She hesitated, but finally took it. Her hand small and cold against his, Amir led her to his apartment. A modest space filled with the smell of coffee and old books. It wasn't much, but it was warm and dry. As soon as they entered, she pulled away slightly, looking around as if everything in his world was unfamiliar. She sank onto the couch, still shivering, and wrapped herself in a blanket he offered. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but held a weight, like someone who had been carrying a heavy burden for a very long time. Amir studied her carefully. She looked young, maybe around his age, but her features were delicate, otherworldly even. Those ears, the silvery hair, the faint glow in her eyes, it all made him wonder where she had come from. "You're welcome," he said. "But who are you? And where are you from?" The girl hesitated, biting her lip. She looked down at her hands, as if trying to find the right words. I don't know if you'll understand," she said finally. "I'm not from here. Not from your world." Amir felt a shiver run down his spine. He had always been a logical person, someone who believed in facts and evidence. And yet, looking at her, he didn't feel fear. He felt curiosity. Something in her gaze, in the way she looked at him, told him she was telling the truth. "Not from here?" he repeated slowly. "Then, where?" She shook her head. "I can't explain it all yet. It's complicated, and I need to stay hidden for now. Please, just let me rest." Amir nodded. He didn't ask more questions. Right now, all that mattered was keeping her safe. He went to the kitchen and made some tea, the warmth filling the room. When he returned, she had curled up on the couch, her ears drooping slightly. She looked exhausted, not just from the rain, but from something deeper, something he couldn't quite see yet. Over the next hour, Amir watched her carefully. She was cautious, almost fearful of every sound, every movement. But slowly, as the warmth from the tea and the blanket reached her, she began to relax. She even managed a small smile when he handed her the cup. It was the first real sign of life he had seen from her since he found her. "My name is Leora," she said quietly, as if saying it aloud made her nervous. "Leora," Amir repeated. I'm Amir, nice to meet you. She nodded, but her eyes seemed distant, lost in thought. Amir realized she had been through something unimaginable. There was a sadness there that he couldn't touch, a fear he couldn't erase with words or warmth. And yet, despite everything, she had trusted him enough to take his hand in the alley, to come into his home. For the first time in years, Amir felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just another man living day by day. He was someone who could make a difference, even in a small way. Helping Leora wasn't just about kindness. It was about connection, about proving to himself that life still had meaning. The rain continued to fall outside, drumming softly against the windows. Inside, the apartment felt like a small island of safety in a stormy world. Amir and Leora didn't speak much after that. Words felt unnecessary. They sat in companionable silence, a strange bond forming between them. Every now and then, Leora's ears would twitch, and Amir would glance at her, curious about what she was sensing. But he didn't ask. He didn't need to. As the night grew deeper, Amir realized something surprising. He didn't feel afraid anymore. Not of her, not of the unknown. There was something about her presence that made his own worries shrink. Something about her eyes, so full of wonder and fear, that reminded him life was bigger than his routines. Bigger than his lonely apartment and gray office. Eventually, Leora fell asleep on the couch, her breathing slow and even. Amir watched her for a while, thinking about the strange twist his life had taken in just a few hours. One moment he was walking home in the rain, feeling invisible to the world. The next, he was sitting next to a girl who shouldn't exist. Someone from another world entirely. Someone who had trusted him with her life. He felt a mix of emotions, fear, wonder, excitement, and a strange, unexplainable hope. Something was coming, something beyond anything he had ever imagined. And even though he didn't know what it was, he knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same again. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside there was a quiet warmth. A human and a girl who belonged to another world. Sharing a small apartment, sharing a moment of safety, and unknowingly beginning a story that would change both of their lives forever. And as Amir finally sat back, exhausted but strangely alive, he understood that meeting Leora was not just chance. It was the beginning of something extraordinary, a journey that would challenge him, teach him, and maybe even give him a life he never thought possible. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening and the air fresh. Sunlight filtered through the clouds, casting a soft glow on Amir's apartment. Leora was still asleep on the couch, wrapped tightly in the blanket he had given her the night before. Amir watched her quietly for a few moments, noticing little things he hadn't paid attention to before, the way her ears twitched even in sleep, the soft shimmer of her hair in the morning light, and the faint glow of her eyes that seemed almost magical. He felt a strange mix of awe and concern. He had never met anyone like her before. She was not just a girl. She was someone extraordinary, someone who seemed to belong to another world entirely. But at the same time, she was fragile, scared, and alone. Amir realized that helping her wasn't just about offering shelter. It was about understanding her, learning who she really was, and helping her find safety in a world that was foreign to her. "Leora?" He called softly, not wanting to startle her. Her eyes opened slowly, and she blinked against the light. "Morning," she whispered, her voice still soft, like a fragile bird. "Morning," Amir replied. "Did you sleep okay?" She nodded, but her expression was tense. I think so. Thank you for letting me stay. I didn't expect anyone to help me like this." Amir smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me. I couldn't leave you out there. You needed help, and I could give it." Laura hesitated for a moment, as if deciding whether or not to say something. Then she spoke, her voice quieter, almost a whisper. "Amir, I should tell you the truth about who I am and where I'm from. But it's complicated." Amir nodded. "I'll listen. You don't have to worry about whether I understand or not. Just tell me." She took a deep breath, and he noticed how tense her small shoulders were. "I'm not from this world. I come from another place, a world very different from yours. It's not like here at all. There's magic there, things you wouldn't believe, creatures you couldn't imagine. And my world, it's in danger. Amir's heart skipped a beat. Danger? Another world? He forced himself to stay calm, though 1,000 questions swirled in his mind. What kind of danger? He asked carefully. She looked down, her ears drooping slightly. There's a war. People fight over power, over control of resources that give magic to the world. Our leaders, they couldn't protect everyone, and many people had to escape. I was one of them. I didn't want to leave, but I had no choice. I came here to hide, to survive. Amir's mind raced. He had always thought of life in simple terms: work, home, friends, small problems. But now, in front of him, sat someone who had been through something unimaginable. A war in another world, a life at risk, a journey across worlds to survive. It was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Why did you come here? Why our world? He asked gently. Leora looked up at him. Her eyes filled with something he couldn't name: hope, fear, and maybe a little desperation. I don't know why I came to this world exactly. I was running. I didn't have a choice. But when I arrived, I felt safe for the first time. But safe isn't the same as home, and I don't know how long I can stay here before they find me, or before something else goes wrong. Amir felt a lump in his throat. He had never felt such a deep sense of responsibility. This girl, who was so unlike anyone he had ever met, had trusted him enough to reveal her story. And now he realized that staying silent or doing nothing wasn't an option. He wanted to help her, not just because it was the right thing, but because he felt drawn to her, as if fate had led them to this moment. Leora, he said softly, you don't have to be alone. I don't know what's out there or what's coming, but I'll do what I can to help you. You're safe here, at least for now. She looked at him, and for the first time, he saw a small spark of relief in her eyes. Thank you, Amir. That means more than you know. For the rest of the morning, they talked quietly, Leora sharing bits of her world. She spoke of floating cities, forests that glowed at night, creatures with wings and horns, and rivers that shimmered with colors he had never seen. She didn't go into everything. Some things were too painful, some secrets too dangerous, but the fragments she revealed painted a picture of a world both beautiful and fragile. Amir listened, amazed and humbled. He realized how small his own problems were in comparison to hers. The stress of work, the loneliness of routine, the monotony of daily life, they seemed trivial now. And yet he also understood something else, that facing challenges, helping someone in need, and making a difference gave life meaning. Until now, he had drifted through life, waiting for something to change. But now, something had changed, and it was real. After a while, Leora grew quiet, lost in thought. Amir noticed her hands trembling slightly as she folded them in her lap. Amir, she said finally, her voice soft, hesitant. I want to tell you something else. Something you might not believe right away, but you need to know it. He leaned forward, attentive. I'll listen. Whatever it is, you can tell me. She took a deep breath, and he saw her struggle to find the words. I can't stay here forever. I belong in my world, even if it's dangerous. And I think you belong there too. With me, Amir blinked, trying to understand. Me. Why would I belong in another world? I'm just me. I have a normal life here. Leora shook her head. No, you don't understand. You're stronger than you think. You have courage, even if you don't see it yet. You have a heart that can help people, and I believe you could help my world survive. Help people who can't protect themselves. I didn't know it at first, but I think you're meant to come with me. Amir's mind spun. He had never imagined such a possibility. Leaving everything he knew, stepping into a world he couldn't even picture. It was terrifying, but at the same time, there was something in her eyes that made him consider it. He had always wanted purpose, something beyond work, beyond routine. Could this be it? Could this girl, from another world entirely, be offering him a chance to truly live? He felt a mixture of fear and excitement. I don't know if I can do that. I don't even know what's waiting for me there. In my life, my family, my friends, I can't just leave them behind. Leora reached out, placing her small hand over his. I don't expect you to decide right now, but I needed you to know. Whatever you choose, I needed you to hear the truth. You have a choice, Amir, and if you choose to stay, I will understand. But if you choose to come, things will never be the same. Amir looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that life was no longer about comfort or safety. It was about courage, about making choices that mattered, about stepping into the unknown, even when it was scary. For hours, talked, shared stories, and slowly built a connection. Leora explained more about her world, but always carefully, never revealing secrets that could put her or others in danger. Amir told her about his life, how ordinary it had been, how lonely, how unfulfilled. And as they spoke, they both began to see that maybe, just maybe, their meeting was not random. Maybe fate, chance, or something beyond understanding had brought them together. By the end of the day, Amir felt a change within himself. He was still afraid, but his fear had transformed into determination. He realized that Leora's world was not just a story, not just a fantasy. It was real, and she was real, and she needed him. And maybe in helping her, he could finally discover the purpose he had been searching for all his life, that night. As they prepared for sleep, Leora curled up on the couch again. Resting her head on the blanket, Amir sat nearby, thinking about what she had said, about the choice that awaited him. His heart was full of questions, but also a strange sense of hope. Tomorrow, he would have to decide whether to continue his ordinary life, or step into a world of wonders, dangers, and possibilities he had never imagined, and for the first time in years, Amir felt truly alive. The following day, the sun shone brightly outside, but inside Amir's apartment, a quiet tension filled the air. Leora had been unusually restless since morning. She paced the small space, her ears twitching every few seconds, as if she were listening for something no one else could hear. Amir watched her carefully, feeling a mix of curiosity and concern. She had always seemed cautious, but today, there was a sense of urgency about her, a nervous energy that made him wonder what was on her mind. Finally, she stopped pacing and turned to him, her silver hair falling over her face. She took a deep breath and met his eyes. Amir, I need to tell you something important, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Amir nodded, sensing that this moment had been coming. Okay, whatever it is, I'm listening. She took another deep breath and then spoke, her words deliberate and full of weight. I can't stay here forever. My world, it needs me. And I think you should come with me. Amir felt his heart skip a beat. The words were simple, but their meaning was enormous. Come with her? Leave everything he knew, his life, his routines, his family, his friends, and step into a world he didn't understand? He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He had never imagined such a possibility, and now it was staring him in the face. Leora, I don't know what to say, he finally managed. His mind raced with questions, fears, and doubts. My life, it's here. I have responsibilities, people who care about me. I can't just leave everything behind. She stepped closer, her eyes pleading, yet gentle. I don't want you to leave lightly. I don't want you to feel forced, but I've seen something in you. Something I believe is important. You have courage, even if you don't realize it. You care more than most people do. And I can't do this alone. My world, it's fragile. People are suffering. And I believe you can help. Mir felt the weight of her words pressing on him. He had always lived cautiously, always choosing safety over risk. But now, faced with her request, he felt something stir inside him, a longing he had buried for years. The longing to do something meaningful, to be part of something bigger than himself. He began, struggling to find the right words. It's not just fear. It's everything. I don't know that I'm ready. I don't even know what I'm stepping into. Leora nodded, understanding his hesitation. I know, it's frightening. It would be frightening for anyone. But sometimes Sometimes we have to face fear to find who we truly are. I didn't know I could survive this alone, and I almost didn't. But you have the strength I need, Amir. Not just strength to fight, but strength to care, to make a difference." Amir's heart ached at her words. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, incapable of great things. But here was someone extraordinary telling him he mattered, that his presence could change the course of a world he couldn't even imagine. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. He sat down, running a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. But what if I fail? What if I can't help? What if I make things worse? Leora sat down next to him, her hand brushing his lightly. "Then we try again. That's all anyone can do. You don't have to be perfect, Amir. You just have to be willing. That's all I ask." Amir looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the hope and trust shining in her eyes. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. She wasn't asking him to be a hero or to be perfect. She was asking him to take a step with her, to trust that together they could face the unknown. And for some reason, he felt that he could. The room fell silent for a few moments, filled only with the soft ticking of the clock and the distant sounds of the city outside. Amir thought about his life, the dull routines, the empty evenings, the loneliness he had carried for years. He thought about the chance to leave all that behind and step into a world where his choices could matter, where he could truly be seen. "Leora," he said finally, his voice quiet but steady. "I don't know what's waiting for me there. I don't know if I can do this, but I don't want to ignore this feeling inside me. Something in me wants to go with you, even if it's terrifying." Her eyes widened slightly, and a small, hopeful smile formed on her lips. You mean that?" "I do," he said, "but I need to understand more. I need to know what I'm stepping into. Can you show me? Can you tell me more about your world, what's happening, and what I might face?" Leora nodded, her excitement mingling with relief. "I can, but some things. Some things you will only understand when you see them. My world is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. The war has left scars, and many places are unsafe. There are creatures that are loyal, and creatures that are not. Magic is real there, but it is unpredictable. And people. People can be cruel, even when they think they're right." Amir listened carefully, absorbing every word. He realized that this wasn't just an adventure or a fantasy. This was real, dangerous, uncertain, and challenging. But he also realized that staying in his comfortable, ordinary life was no longer an option. He had felt alive in ways he hadn't known existed ever since meeting Leora. He didn't want to give that feeling up. "Okay," he said slowly, his mind still racing. "I'm willing to try. I don't know what's waiting for me, but I want to help. I want to be there with you." Leora's face lit up, her ears perking up in delight. "Amir? Really?" "Yes," he said, smiling despite the fear twisting in his stomach. "Really, but we need to plan. I need to understand what to expect, and you need to tell me everything you can." Over the next several hours, they sat together, talking in whispers, mapping out what Amir would need to know. Leora explained the creatures he might encounter, the dangers of magic that could be unpredictable, and the places that were unsafe even for her. She spoke of the cities that floated above the clouds, the forests that glowed at night, and the rivers that shone like liquid light. It sounded like a dream, and yet Amir could see the truth in her eyes. This world existed, and it needed him. Despite the excitement of what lay ahead, Amir couldn't ignore the weight of leaving his old life behind. He thought about his family, his friends, the small apartment that had been his refuge for years. He knew he would have to say goodbye, at least for a while, and that terrified him. But he also knew that some opportunities only came once. This was one of those opportunities. As night fell, the two of them sat quietly, side by side. The city lights flickered outside the window, and the hum of traffic was a comforting reminder of the life Amir was leaving behind. He reached out and took Leora's hand, feeling her warmth, her trust, and her hope. "Amir," she said softly, "you don't have to decide tonight. Just know, whatever you choose, I will respect it. But I hope you choose to come. I hope you choose to see what's beyond this world with me." Amir looked at her, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation. He didn't know what the next day would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't turn back now. Something inside him had changed. He had felt alive for the first time in years, and that feeling was worth everything. He squeezed her hand gently. Tomorrow I'll be ready. Tomorrow, I'll step forward. With you. Leora smiled, a small but radiant smile that lit up the room. Thank you, Amir. That means more than I can say. That night as they prepared for sleep, Amir felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The world he had always known, the quiet streets, the predictable days, the routines that had once comforted him, was about to be left behind. And beyond that, a world of wonders, dangers, and possibilities awaited. For the first time in his life, Amir realized that fear wasn't something to avoid. It was a signal that something meaningful, something life-changing, was about to happen. And with Leora by his side, he felt ready to face it. As he drifted into sleep, his mind was filled with images of glowing forests, floating cities, and the eyes of a fox-eared girl who had trusted him with her life. And deep inside, he knew that whatever happened next, his life and Leora's would never be the same again. The next morning, Amir woke to the sound of birds outside his window, the sunlight spilling gently into the room. He looked over at Leora, who was still sleeping peacefully on the couch. For the first time in days, he felt a strange mix of calm and anticipation. Today, he had promised himself he would start paying closer attention to what was happening around them. Since Leora had arrived, strange things had been happening. At first, Amir had tried to dismiss them as coincidence. A shadow moving differently in the corner of his eye, a soft shimmer in the air that disappeared when he looked directly at it. Faint whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. But over the last few days, the signs had grown more frequent. Objects in his apartment occasionally shifted slightly. Lights flickered when Leora was near. And the air sometimes carried a subtle scent like flowers he had never smelled, or the fresh, magical tang of something not of this world. Amir had never believed in anything supernatural. He had always relied on logic, on facts. But now, faced with the impossible, he felt his certainty crumbling. Leora's world wasn't just a story, it was real. And somehow he was beginning to be connected to it. As he made breakfast, Amir noticed the faint glow of something in the corner of the kitchen. At first he thought it was a trick of the light, but when he focused, he saw a tiny floating creature. No bigger than his hand, hovering near the window. It had wings like a dragonfly, but its body shimmered with colors that didn't exist in the natural world. The creature blinked at him, and he blinked back, frozen in awe. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it darted toward Leora and disappeared into her hair. Leora entered the kitchen at that moment, her ears twitching as she sensed the creature. "I see it," she whispered. "It's rare for them to appear here. They usually stay in my world." Amir stared at her, speechless. It's real. All of it. Your world, the creatures. Everything you said." She smiled softly, a mixture of pride and concern. "I told you, Amir, you are connected to it now. And that connection will grow stronger as the time to decide comes closer. You will start to feel it in ways you can't explain yet." Amir nodded, still trying to process everything. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, as if the tiny creature had left a spark inside him. The world he had always known, the quiet streets. The simple routines was fading, and a new world was calling to him. Throughout the day, more signs appeared. Objects in his apartment occasionally moved on their own, as if guided by an unseen hand. Shadows flickered and stretched unnaturally, and sometimes he could swear he heard faint whispers calling his name. At first, he felt fear creeping into his mind. But Leora stayed close, her presence steady and reassuring, reminding him that he wasn't alone. By afternoon, Amir realized that he could sense the portal Leora had used to enter his world. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, but he could feel it, a gentle pull, like a current of wind tugging at the edges of his consciousness. He closed his eyes and focused, and for the first time, he imagined the world beyond it, the floating cities, the glowing forests, the rivers of light, and the creatures he had only heard of in Leora's stories. He opened his eyes and saw Leora watching him, her expression curious but calm. "It's happening," she said softly. "You're starting to feel it. That pull. That's the first sign that you're ready. But it also means the choice is coming. Soon, the portal will open fully, and you will have to decide whether to step through or stay here." Amir swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed down on him. Leaving everything he had known, stepping into a world he couldn't predict, was terrifying. And yet the pull inside him was undeniable. Something deep in his heart told him that he belonged there, with her, that this was where he could make a difference, where he could truly live. As evening approached, the tension grew. The air around them seemed to shimmer slightly, the walls of the apartment glowing faintly in the fading sunlight. Even the sounds of the city outside seemed muted, replaced by a soft, almost musical hum. Amir realized that the boundary between his world and Leora's was weakening, that the portal was preparing to open. Leora sensed it too. She moved closer, placing a hand on his arm. "Amir, it's almost time. You don't have to decide tonight, but you need to be ready. The longer you wait, the stronger the pull will get, and it will be harder to ignore." Amir nodded, feeling a mixture of fear, excitement, and anticipation. He didn't want to make a mistake, but he also knew that indecision was no longer an option. Every moment he spent hesitating was a moment closer to the portal opening without. Him being prepared, they spent the night together quietly, talking softly, sharing small stories, and reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Leora told him more about the people in her world, about those who were waiting for help, and about the dangers they would face. Amir listened carefully, absorbing every detail, preparing himself mentally for what was to come. As he lay awake that night, Amir could feel the portal calling to him more strongly than ever. It wasn't just a physical sensation. It was emotional, spiritual. He felt a tug on his heart, a longing for something he had never experienced before. The world he had always known seemed small and insignificant. Compared to the one waiting beyond the portal, he realized something important. Fear was natural. He could be afraid and still choose to act. He could be uncertain and still step forward. And most importantly, he could trust Leora, who had guided him this far, who had shown him courage and purpose in ways he had never known. Morning came, and with it, a clear, bright light that seemed to fill the entire apartment. The portal had begun to appear, faintly shimmering in the corner of the room, like heat rising from the pavement on a hot day. Amir stared at it, feeling the pull stronger than ever. He knew the moment of decision had arrived. Leora stood beside him, her ears twitching, her eyes shining with hope and determination. "Amir," she said softly, "it's time. You don't have to step through if you're not ready. But I hope you choose to come with me. Together, we can face what's waiting on the other side." Amir took a deep breath, feeling the full weight of the choice before him. Leaving his old life behind, stepping into a world he didn't fully understand, facing danger, uncertainty, and responsibility was overwhelming. But at the same time, he felt a deep, undeniable certainty. This was where he belonged. This was the life he had been searching for, even if he hadn't known it. He reached out, taking Leora's hand in his. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady and calm. "I'll step through with you. I don't know what's waiting, but I trust you. And I want to see it for myself." Leora smiled, a bright, radiant smile that seemed to light up the room. Her ears twitched in delight, and she squeezed his hand. "Thank you, Amir. You have no idea what this means to me.
Together.
We can face anything." As they stepped closer to the portal, the air around them shimmered and swirled, a mix of light and color that made Amir's heart race. He felt the pull stronger than ever, tugging at his very soul. But he didn't hesitate. With Leora by his side, he stepped forward, leaving everything he had known behind. The world around them blurred, colors and shapes blending together in a dizzying dance of light. Amir felt weightless, as if he were flying, as if the universe itself was opening up to welcome him. And then, with a soft whoosh, they emerged into a place unlike anything he had ever imagined. Floating cities stretched above them. Glowing forests extended as far as the eye could see, and rivers of light wound through the landscape like molten stars. Creatures of every shape and size moved gracefully. some curious, some cautious, but all living in harmony with the strange, magical world around them. Amir stood there, speechless, feeling a mix of awe, wonder, and joy. He had left his ordinary life behind, stepped into the unknown, and found a world more beautiful, more alive than he could have ever imagined. And beside him, Leora smiled, proud and hopeful, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges awaited. For the first time in his life, Amir felt truly alive. When Amir opened his eyes, he realized he was no longer in his apartment. The familiar walls, the worn couch, and the faint smell of coffee were gone. Instead, he was standing on soft grass that glowed faintly under his feet. Above him, the sky was alive with colors he had never seen, swirling shades of violet, gold and deep blue like a painting that moved with every breath of wind. Beside him, Leora held his hand, her ears perked with alertness and excitement. She smiled at him, and Amir could see the relief and happiness shining in her eyes. "Welcome to my world," she said softly. "This is the place I come from. This is where everything begins." Amir's heart pounded. He had imagined many things since meeting Leora, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The air was crisp and fragrant, carrying the scent of flowers he had never smelled. Trees stretched high into the sky, their leaves sparkling with light. And streams of water flowed with colors that shifted from turquoise to gold with every ripple. He could hear soft whispers in the wind, almost like the trees themselves were speaking, and somewhere in the distance, creatures sang in voices that were both beautiful and strange. He looked around, feeling a mixture of awe and disbelief. "It's incredible," he whispered. "I can't believe this is real." Leora squeezed his hand. "It is real, Amir. And now, you're part of it. You've left your world behind, and together we can face what's coming. There's so much to see, to understand, to help with. Your journey starts now." They began walking, the glowing grass soft beneath their feet. Small creatures, some with wings and others with fur that shimmered like crystal, darted around them, curious but cautious. Leora introduced him to a few, whispering names and explaining their roles in her world. Some were messengers, some protectors, and some simply companions who brought joy and comfort to those who needed it. Amir marveled at how alive and connected everything seemed, how every living thing, no matter how small, had a place and a purpose. As they walked further, they reached a forest where the trees glowed faintly, casting light across the path. Leora paused and looked at him seriously. "Amir, this is where it will start. There are people here who need help. They've been hiding, struggling to survive while others fought for power. You may see things that are frightening or confusing, but remember, you're here for a reason. You can make a difference." Amir nodded, swallowing the nervousness that had begun to creep into his stomach. He had faced uncertainty before, but this was entirely different. This was a world filled with wonders and dangers alike, and he was stepping into it without any guarantee of safety. But at the same time, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than he had ever felt in his life. They continued walking, and soon they encountered a small village nestled in a clearing. The houses were built into the trees, glowing softly with magical light. People moved about, some cautious, some curious, and Amir realized that these were the ones Leora had spoken of, the survivors of her world, waiting for guidance, protection, and hope. One of the villagers, a woman with delicate wings and hair that shimmered like sunlight on water, approached them. She looked at Amir with suspicion, but also curiosity. Leora introduced him carefully. "This is Amir. He has come from another world to help us. He is brave, and he wants to make a difference." The woman studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "If Leora trusts you, we will too. But know this, the world outside is dangerous. There are those who would harm us if given the chance. We have survived, but survival is not enough. We need guidance, courage, and strength." Amir felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. He had never thought of himself as particularly brave or strong, but standing here, in this world that was alive with magic and possibility, he realized that he had made the choice to be here. He could not turn back now, and he did not want to. Over the next few hours, Leora guided him through the village, introducing him to others and explaining the challenges they faced. There were areas damaged by conflict, communities struggling with scarce resources, and creatures that had been hurt or frightened. Amir listened carefully, learning quickly. And even though he felt out of place at first, he also realized that he had skills from his own world that could help problem-solving, strategy, and most importantly, empathy. By evening, the two of them reached a hill overlooking the village. The sun, nor what passed for a sun in this magical sky, was setting, casting long shadows and painting the world in gold and purple. Amir looked out over the land, taking it all in, feeling the weight and the beauty of what he had chosen. Leora stood beside him, her hand still in his. You see, Amir, this world is full of wonder, but it is also fragile. It needs people who care, who are willing to take risks and make sacrifices. And now, you are one of those people. Together, we can help, we can heal, and maybe even rebuild what was lost. Amir felt a warmth spread through him, a mix of pride, hope, and determination. He had left his old life behind, stepped into the unknown, and found a place where he could belong, where he could matter. He realized that fear was natural, but it no longer controlled him. He had chosen this path, and he would face it fully. With courage and an open heart, night fell over the magical world, and the village glowed softly under the light of the stars. Amir and Leora sat together on the hill, looking out over the land. The sounds of the village, the gentle hum of magical energy, and the distant calls of creatures filled the air. It was a world full of life, danger, beauty, and hope. And Amir felt that he was finally part of something meaningful, something bigger than himself. Amir, Leora said softly, I know this is only the beginning. There will be challenges, and sometimes it will be hard. But I also know that together we can face anything. You've already taken the hardest step, choosing to come here, choosing to believe in this world and in me. That courage will carry you further than you think. Amir nodded, feeling a deep sense of connection and purpose. I trust you, Leora, and I trust myself. We'll face whatever comes. Together, said she, smiled, her ears twitching with happiness. Yes. Together, as they watched the stars twinkle above the magical world, Amir felt a sense of peace he had never known. He had left behind the familiar, the ordinary, and stepped into the extraordinary. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and he had chosen courage, trust, and hope. And for the first time in his life, he knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. The journey was only beginning. But Amir and Leora stood ready, side by side, prepared to face whatever challenges, wonders, and adventures lay ahead. Their bond, forged through trust, courage, and shared choice, would guide them as they explored the magical world, helping those in need, discovering new places, and learning the true meaning of purpose and belonging. For Amir, leaving his old life behind had not been an ending. It had been a beginning filled with light, wonder, responsibility, and hope. And as he looked at Leora, he knew that together they could face anything, and that the life they would build here would be one of courage, discovery, an unending possibility. The magical world stretched endlessly before them, full of mysteries, challenges, and beauty. And Amir felt ready, alive, and hopeful, knowing that he had made the choice that changed everything, not just for himself, but for the world he had stepped into and the girl who had trusted him enough to bring him there. Subscribe, please.